Hello everyone, friends. Before viewing, be sure to like and write a comment. Enjoy your viewing. Full moon. Creepy atmosphere. We are shown a fair-haired girl who says, "The moon is bright today." She has a cigarette in her mouth, and she herself is covered in blood. Did you see the scene? They ask her, "Not yet, the damn leader managed to escape, but I could not catch up with him." She exhales smoke while sitting on a killed monster. She is told there is one goal to focus on. When you're done with everything there, take care of it. I'll send the data. She looks at her phone and says, "What the fuck? Who is this underage?" 18-year-old high school student, and the address is. Suddenly they are interrupted. "Oh, it's you. Bastards who take our lives." A monster was staring at her, devouring her hand. "Are you a beast that kills all the inhabitants of the area?" She asked rhetorically. "I didn't think that youngsters were also sent to hunt people. You insult us so much. However, it doesn't matter. I will play and dismember you little by little to find out everything about you. Then, you will beg me to kill you on the spot." The monster says with its mouth open. "And this is your plan? Suck," the girl says. "I think." She says, drawing her sword and showing her fangs, and ends with "just like you." We are shown the hero Cha Hyun Song in the blood. He had his teeth knocked out for money. His abusers leave with the money and say see you next week. At home, he is greeted by his uncle's indignation about arriving home late. He tries to apologize, but they continue to shout at him and accuse him of taking long walks. They demand his mother's bank account from him because according to his uncle, she had to leave something. Full moon. The hero says that this is his routine. That after the death of his mother, his life is like an endless Groundhog Day. He does not remember his father. He remembers his father's back. He had a kind smile. He wanted to be like him. Suddenly, he is pulled out of his thoughts by a woman running and screaming help. "Some man is jazzing me." He ordered her to leave quickly because no one walks here at night. He calls the police. Suddenly, his hand is out of place. He looks at the hand flying off in the other direction, and a sharp pain pierces the body. A female voice addresses him. "Who is such a good man? It's hard to find people like you in such a cruel world." He takes out tentacles. "I didn't think that I would lure you so easily. If I had not been starving in the last days, I would be nicer to you." He looks at her in horror. "We are thirsty at night with such a moon." Suddenly, a lot of hands jumped out at him. Pulled back. They bit through his neck, began to dismember quickly. His father's voice appeared in his head. "If it's very difficult for you in the future, just interrupt them." And then a huge monster appeared to us. The boy was resurrected and became many times larger than those who attacked him. The monsters realized that he was not human. He began to interrupt and eat them all one at a time. He did it mercilessly. "I'll kill everyone," he said greedily. Then a woman's voice spoke to him. "Cha Hyun Song? You look different in real life. Are you human?" She patiently waited for his answer and thought, is this all his doing? They wouldn't kill their own. Is he also at enmity with them? She addresses him. "If you are a man, I will take with me. If you are a beast, I will kill. Hey, what would you choose?" He suddenly pounces on her. But she did not lose her head, and she pulled out her sword, cutting through his arm. "Is this your answer? And I like that option," she said, and raised her sword to fight. She easily escaped from all his grips, cutting him with her sword in the process. This was not new to her, so she managed very quickly. Cutting through all his blows with a sword, she said, "I agree, if you don't want to, you are already in the game. There is no other." She quickly wielded the sword in her hands. "By the way, we haven't met yet, my name is Song Kaen," she said to the bloody body in front of her. "Let's talk in a more relaxed environment, Cha Hyun Song. It's hard. And my soul. Everything inside is on fire." Suddenly Cha Hyun wakes up in the hospital, but looking at his hand, he notices that it is still there. He remembered exactly what happened that night, but could not understand why he was healthy. He was thrown into a fever of memories. When suddenly he heard footsteps. And his voice asked, "Are you okay?" He asked in confusion where he was and who was this person in front of him. He was told, "Don't you remember? Relax, we're in the hospital. We want to protect you. You can call me boss." He incomprehensibly asked, "Are you from the police?" The same one answered him that he was a civil servant, but not a policeman. He explained, "We are a secret government organization. You met the animals yesterday. We are engaged in their liquidation." "Beasts?" the boy asked. The chief answered him. "They used to be people, but now we have to fight them. I can tell you one thing. Animals feed on people. and you can turn into a beast. When the chief left Cha Hyun's room, he was asked if he had any success, to which he replied in the negative and added, no, he doesn't believe in his own ability. In addition, he does not remember yesterday. They decided to give him some time and appointed him a bodyguard, suggesting a certain Mr. Hong for this position. They refused. They put another one up. We are shown the streets of the city at night and two people in black suits heading towards the man. They overdo him to step aside, to which he did not pay attention. The man in black asked for assistance in this investigation. But the man in front of him suddenly became sharply angry and beat off the head of the man in black with a powerful blow. The girl behind him, realizing what was happening, attacked the beast with her abilities. He sharply kicked him in the head and smashed his skull with the same. She kept hitting harder and harder. But suddenly, out of nowhere, the man had strength and he cut off her leg and then completely dismembered her with his sharp hands. Annoyed, he said, I didn't expect that the limit of a trained person's strength would be like that. Not bad techniques, but still people are weaker. These are the bastards who kill my relatives? He moved on, looking for a place to eat. He sincerely could not understand who did it. Because judging by the strength of those people, they definitely would not have coped with this. He took the blood that was on the floor on his finger and said with a grin, I think I found a funny personality. We are shown the place where Hyun Song works. His name is, and they say that the table order is ready. He was walking in his thoughts about what happened a couple of days ago when suddenly sushi was stuffed into his mouth. The girl asked, do you miss school, but not a part-time job? He asked the dubious person who she was. Raising her cap, she introduced herself as Lee Yoon-bai. They went outside to talk. And he tried to explain that he was ill. She asked so much that you couldn't even read the message? He continued to justify himself by saying that his phone was dead. But then he asked, do you know how much money I will lose if I take the day off? There is no point in going to school. She asked him about a cigarette, but he smelled because he was cleaning the smoking room. Well, here we are thrown to a blonde girl who says do not tell anyone about what happened. Is it possible to somehow understand that a man is a beast? Asks Hyun Sung, so I don't tell them? Song Kaen answers him no, so it's better not to talk, so as not to die stupidly. Even if you can somehow avoid it. Can you save your family? Hyun Sung tensed up and turned away from Yoon Bu, saying, you know how hard it is for me. I do not live, but I survive. I'm just tired. Forget it. The girl simply said that she was always open for a heart-to-heart conversation and left. We are shown a man in a hood, sitting on a bench and looking for his prey. He reasons people under the influence of drugs or alcohol leave a bad aftertaste. And this fat man is dirty. Despite the fact that I need to satisfy this brutal hunger, I don't want to stuff everything into myself. Well, I won't find anything like that. He sits on a bench with his hands folded and continues to reason, he left such a mark. That's why I thought it would be easy to find. It turns out it's not that easy. He is avoiding us. Or. We are thrown home to Hyun Sung. His uncle yells at him again for money. Throwing a bottle at him and breaking near the head. His uncle yells, do you think I'm asking too much? I will not ask you for money all my life. Hyun Sung tries to explain himself, but they give him a slap in the face. He continues to scream and beat. Hyun Sung wishes his uncle dead. We are shown an uncle talking on the phone and saying that he will return the money by the end of the week because he is a man of his word. Suddenly, the phone is knocked out of his hands. What is it? He screams. Let go when they say nice things, bastard. But the grip on the arm did not loosen. We are shown Hyun Sung. He throws away his phone because there are only calls from him to his boss and Yoon-bai. He decides he's tired of it. Wherever you go, they beat you up everywhere, he thinks with annoyance. There is nowhere to even go. Besides, the beasts are hunting me and want me dead. Haha, my end has come. He decides that the moment will not be better than now. But suddenly he turns his head and sees grunting and walking towards him. That man on the street injected his blood into him, and that can only mean one thing. Hyun Sung looks at his uncle in confusion, and suddenly the latter abruptly begins to tear his flesh, a beast begins to climb out of him. He hits the main character with all his might. And he flies to the floor from his blow. Uncle also turned out to be a beast. Uncle takes it in his hand and begins to squeeze as hard as possible. Along the way, blaming him for the grief of the family and all the debts that he has. Hyun Sung yells at him at the accusations, is this all because of me? After that, thinking, then if I disappear, everything will stop. We are shown his flashbacks, all the memories, and the terrible things that happened to him. He explodes with anger, not understanding why he needs all this. Why does everyone want him dead? With these thoughts, he turns into a beast. And he rises above his uncle with the words, "What have I been so guilty of?" Answer. He knocked out all the forces from his uncle, tore him apart, while demanding an answer for what he was guilty of. He gets into his uncle's mouth, and he finally says to him, "What did you do wrong? As soon as you were born, you were already a burden." After these words, Hyun Sung realizes. And he sharply says, "It comes out from the very first days of life, you did not consider me a member of the family. Wonderful. Now I cannot feel guilty before you." After these words, he sharply breaks his jaw, while his uncle tries to stop him, begging, but he inexorably tears him into small pieces. He looks up and sees two silhouettes, turning to them, he says, "Animals, you are chasing me from now on, I won't hide. Run away too. I don't care who you are. And who am I? If you want something from me, just kill me and take it. However, if you manage to kill me, I will kill you on the spot." Behind the enraged Hyun Sung lay the remains of his uncle. After he tore it apart, he was furious at those people who prevented him from living. They continued to follow him. He yelled at them, "Come here. I'll kill everyone." Two beasts stood in confusion what they should do. And one of them suggested, "We need to meet our rival, don't you think?" Another added with a sneer, "He wants to kill his relatives. He's funny, I like him." The second answered in the negative. He did not consider him one of them, for them he was a defective mutant. One of them decided to get rid of him. Jumping down, he asked Hyun Sung from where he got such strength. He replied, "I thought I was dead. But when he opened his eyes, he became like that. It's cool, isn't it?" His opponent was indignant and began to transform. Once opposite each other, they glared at each other. This will be a battle. Not for life, but for death. Hyun Sung's rival turned out to be many times larger than himself. But it didn't bother him at all. It just added to the excitement. Suddenly bringing his leg to strike, he gets on the head. The enemy beats him to hell and thinks that he is smitten. But the most unexpected thing is that Hyun Sung hits him with such force, which he has never seen in his life. He strikes him in a jump, and the beast does not expect this at all, does not have time to repel his next blow. But on the next blow, he still manages to repel Hyun Sung from himself. He thinks, unbelievable. How can this guy have more power than me? All exhausted and beaten, he rises from the ground and another arm comes out of his body. Hyun Sung certainly didn't expect this. "Now I will fight at full strength," screams the beast. Trying to defeat Hyun Sung with his four arms, he still beats him off. "I don't know how to resist. I'm not his rival," Hyun Sung screams in his head. "I need to figure out how to fight him back," he thinks. But before he had time to change his mind, they began to beat on his body at the speed of light. He got hit harder and harder until he fell to the ground and started spitting blood. To push back? Nonsense. I can't even dodge hits. That bastard has a sneaky tactic. He wondered if those beasts that attacked him then could have used it instead of a weapon. He is also a beast. His rival was looking for him and shouted for him to come out. He shouted, "I know you can't do it that easily. What's happened? Already not the courage? Just think of running away, I can smell you everywhere." But then, behind him, the words "but you're in vain" were heard. And turning around, he saw Hyun Sung, who raised his leg for a kick. The beast had already raised its forearms to strike as Hyun Sung released his weapon from his hands. Sharp limbs protruded from his hands. And the beast was in complete incomprehension. Without hesitation, Hyun Sung began to beat him and cut him with his limbs. He cut off his hands quickly and without fuss. He landed on the ground. Behind him lay a torn apart beast. But then he felt a very strong pain in his body. It's like all the bones are broken. Looking around, he realized that there was another beast standing behind him and that he would also have to fight. He looked at his limbs in confusion and looked at the monster. He told him with a grin, "Baby, you are brave. But you look exhausted. Can you defeat me?" He, not at a loss, replied, "Shut your mouth, creature. I'll kill you with one finger." Here we are shown an unfamiliar face who thinks to intervene. But then the beast begins to say, "I wanted to know more about the jerk that he considers all his enemies. I understand why you're mad at all of us. But let's do this, shall we? You have great potential. Do you want to work with us? You can get recognition among us." Hyun Sung looked at him with a grin and said, "Cooperation proposal? Why is it for me? Do you think I will work in the collective of animals because I have nowhere to go? Ha ha ha. I would rather die than cooperate with you." Apparently, this is a denial. If so, then at least entertain me. The beast said to him in reply and began to transform. He started talking about how long he had been waiting for this. That ordinary people are not their rivals. The beast has long wanted to ride the reel itself. Suddenly, Hyun Song saw a huge explosion in front of him. And a completely unfamiliar person came out of it with a bat in his hands. And on the bat were the limbs of the same beast that wanted to fight Hyun Song. Only they know how to bluff like that, said a man walking towards him. He quoted him as saying that Hyun Song would no longer run away and that he would kill everyone. And he asked rhetorically, your words? Hyun nodded. And he was told that he had the look of a predator and that he was so bold and courageous. Live. And they tell him to go because he already did his best. And from tomorrow, he's a stranger's apprentice. Hyun Sung was in shock. We are shown the chief Han Chun-ho. He says that this operation is approved by the authorities and that all responsibility lies with him. Guard Hyun Sung-yun was asked to report on the progress of events. Yoon replied, okay, let's get started then. He began a story about who these animals are. These are monsters that have metamorphoses from an unknown infection. They have unique high physical abilities. Animals hide in society and betray people. They tried many means to exterminate them. But at the present time, special agents who have undergone body enhancement are confronting the beasts. Their organization is the most important thing in this. They found Hyun Sung a week ago. He can transform into a human and an animal. He watched the fight yesterday and realized that the boy was hostile to the animals. They want to make him the best agent for their organization. That's what this operation is for. The word is inserted by the girl. I heard that he does not have a guardian. Maybe it was necessary to transfer him to the headquarters? No, the beasts can tell where they are by the smell of each other's blood, Yun told her. He has animal instincts. What will we do if he gets out of control? Asked a man. He was told, don't worry, our best agent is with him. Hyun Sung hasn't been to school for a long time. He didn't care about studying. Suddenly they called out to him and a fist immediately flew into his face. His offenders took him to the backyard and started beating him. They beat him for every reason they could find. But when Hyun opened his eyes, his abuser began to look so weak to him. He just took and stopped his hand. He began to squeeze her, tighter and tighter. His offender grimaced in pain, and Hyun continued to squeeze his hand and put him on his knees. Now he wanted to understand why this boy enjoyed bullying people so much. When suddenly it was interrupted. The same girl who knocked him out the first time they met. I thought, why these old people make me look after you. I just realized now. The girl said and stopped him. His offenders ran away. And he was alone with her. She asked him, have you learned how to fight back yet? But why? And suddenly he raised his hand to strike. She stopped him in understanding. We are shown that girl from the computer club. She walks down the street and sees those people who tried to beat Hyun Sung. She goes to the place where he is usually beaten. And he sees Hyuna with a girl there. She is in shock. Song Kaen provokes Hyun Sung into a fight. She wants him to show her his full power. But he didn't want to fight her. I just put on my glasses and said, I don't want to offend anyone. I just wanted no one to touch me. So I won't fight you. She decided not to cause unnecessary trouble and informed him that Mr. Yun was calling him. That today at 12 at night he needs to be at the place where they first met. The poor girl behind the wall was in shock, she was jealous. Hyun Sung arrived at the meeting point on time. Yoon and Yeon were already there. He asked them why they called him. They asked him why he broke the boy's arm at school. He broke into a scream when he thought they would start lecturing him. Yoon just said that he could beat the other one in silence, that's all. He told him, of course, you can't just stand there while being beaten. But all the same, do not fight with them at full strength, otherwise you will kill. He told him what to do. But Hyun still didn't understand why he was here. When he asked, Yoon gave him a smartphone because he couldn't get through to him. Yi-yeon promised him that he would never treat him the way other adults treated him. Yug asked Yi-yeon not to be so cruel to Hyun. And he eventually began to explain why he called them. I have been in response to Hyun Sung since yesterday. And you, Song Kaen, the first agent to come into contact with Hyun Sung. Hyun Sung, you have potential, but you don't know anything yet. And you have Kaen, you have skills, but you don't know how to work in a team. That is why you are working together from today. Both were immediately outraged. But they still went to work together. They were walking down the street, and Hyun Sung was pushing. He said that he had to go to school tomorrow. Ka-yeon, in response, began to read his testimonial. To which he became very angry and sneered in response about her family. She said she didn't want to talk. In my head they both resent. We are shown the crime scene. It is run by men in black. The new police officers do not understand why outsiders can inspect the scene of the incident. The officer replies that it is better not to know about it. Because these kinds of disappearances and murders have been happening lately. In addition, the media are monitored to prevent press coverage. All this is reportedly the work of some organization. The officer says I don't know what kind of jerks command them. But, you just have to follow orders from above if life is dear to you. Hyun Song and Cha Young arrive at the scene. They ask the guard to report the situation. The guard says the incident is believed to have happened about 3 hours ago. The bodies were first discovered by a hospital guard and informed the police. Cha Young asks if there are any survivors, to which she is told no. They enter the room with the corpses. Hyun Sung becomes ill at once because no one warned him that it would be like this. Cha Young says, look at them. Those bastards stacked mountains of corpses so neatly to show off. Their eyes are covered in blood and their tongues are bitten hard. It can be seen that they did not immediately kill them, at first they mocked and tortured them. We enjoyed the process. She finishes with fun. Hyun Sung ran to the fresh air because he could not stand the smell of blood in summer. Suddenly he saw a mother with a child in her arms in the corner. He was overwhelmed with memories of the death of his own mother. She lay in a hospital bed and spoke her last words. She asked to take her hand, but he was afraid that if she stood there and listened to her, she would leave him forever. He ran away. That's how he started to run away from problems since childhood. And it continues to this day. Suddenly, his sobs were interrupted by Cha Young, who said, don't let the snot in. We're done here. But, we will need to stay here and wait for orders. In fact, they are targeting us with the hope that we will fall into their trap when we start to hunt them down. They thought of everything beforehand. Those idiots think they can catch us by killing a few pathetic people. Cha Young said with disappointment. Suddenly, Hyun Sung raised his head and angrily asked, pitiful people? Cha Young replied, yes, pathetic. Among these corpses, there is not one who would try to fight the beast. Their cause of death is inaction. Complete pussies. Suddenly, Hyun Sung jumped to his feet in a fury, what do you even know about people? Turning into a beast, he asked. Well, yes, before the manifestation of the ability, you were just as pathetic. I'm telling you again. Those who don't fight for their lives don't deserve to live. Suddenly, Hyun Sung broke through the wall behind her and went on. Do you want bloodshed? Then I will do everything as you said. But I'll do it without you. I do not like you. Try to stop me if you want to kill. Do whatever you want. I can smell their blood. I'll finish them myself. No matter what. Dark night. The sound of champing comes from the building. Someone yells, stop eating, pig. Do you always eat when we have important business? We don't even know when those hunting dogs will invade us. They were in a corridor. There were many creatures there. At the request of the leader, the beasts destroyed the entire hospital. They killed people, but they didn't eat a single one. All this they did in order to lure the hunters into their trap. Then they heard a loud noise. It came from behind the door. She broke with every push. A fat man came to the door and opened it. As soon as he did so, a strong punch flew to his face. All the animals turned around, they saw an angry Hyun Sung. He had an animal grin. He asked, are you the ones who killed all the people in the hospital? At first, everyone froze and then abruptly began to turn into vile creatures. They shouted in vile voices that kid who killed his relatives in that area. He confirmed their guesses and then sharply, already preparing to attack, added and now I will destroy you too. The beasts tried to pounce on him, one after the other. He sharply tore apart everyone he saw on his way. He beat, tore everyone he could. He attacked them all quickly and without hesitation. He crushed one head with his feet. Tore off the legs of another with his hands. Extra sharp limbs protruded from his arms. But he began to cut them all. He wielded his powers with ease. We are shown the leader of all these animals. He sits in a chair and says wow. What a rude guest. Rising from his chair, he says I was waiting for a hunting dog and a stray dog came to me. He himself was a thin, bald old man with long claws on his hands and feet. Hyun Sung stood still the whole time. And then he spoke why? Did you kill these people? With a grin, the ringleader was taken to his question are you still asking? Definitely. You are not a hunting dog. The reason we kill people is to survive. There are many reasons, but after I became like this, I started killing people just because. It's a lot of fun. You also killed many, how do you like it? Isn't it fun? Hyun Sung tries to strike, but suddenly he is hit in the face with such force that he did not even expect that this old man could have. He stopped every blow and quickly beat again. He threw it over and hit the ground. Hyun Sung was spitting blood. He did not understand where he got such strength from. He looked very weak. And the old man said young, inattentive, and so inexperienced. He towered over him, and thinking that he was dead, he was about to leave. Suddenly, Hyun Sung spat blood. The old man ordered him to stand. After all, the moon was still bright. Although he had not done this for a long time, he abruptly broke his neck and turned his head 360 degrees. And he said, do you want me to teach you a couple of tricks? Hyun Sung jumped up and tried to attack the strongest monster again. But he couldn't even hit him. Sharp spikes came out of his body. And the old man was just happy about it. He said, and you have sharp fangs. Do you want to break this old body? But can you handle it? He asked with a sneer as he slapped Hyun Sung's temples hard. A sharp pain pierced his ears. While he clutched his head, the leader broke his legs. Muscles are torn. The bones are all broken. He cannot fight. He cannot escape. He wondered if he would die right there. Suddenly, Cha Hyun broke through the wall. She told Hyun Sung to step aside. After all, now she is the opponent of the old man. He just laughed and said, okay, another new toy has arrived, it will be a lot of fun. Cha Hyun, not yet aware of his ability, eagerly said, you can laugh as much as you like. Because today you will die. She was very good with a sword. But there was still not a single cut left on the old man. She continued to try to kill him when he suddenly threw her over his shoulder with ease, grabbing her leg. She lay, motionless at first. Which could be confusing. Suddenly, she abruptly seized control, seizing power for herself. She cut his body into two halves. He, in surprise, asked one of the halves, baby, who is your mentor? But suddenly he was able to connect the two halves of his body together. She answered him, mentor? Your mom trained me. When the two parts of his body grew together, he said that he had no choice but to show his grin. Demon fangs, he shouted, and red smoke appeared around him. It flew straight at Cha Hyun, and she shouted with excitement, I will be very grateful if you attack head-on. May I cut your head in two? She swung and began to attack. Their battle continued as the building began to fall. After the fall ended, Hyun Sung began to climb out of the rubble that was left of the building. But then he will see how Cha Hyun plunges his sword right into the throat of the main beast. And the beast laughed and said with his last breath, ho ho, what an exciting night. His head flew into the air. Standing over the body of the leader, she shouted throne. Hyun Sung looked at her in shock. But then he drew attention to her stomach, she was wounded very badly. He told her about it, but that she, trying to answer indifferently, fell to her knees bleeding. She says, well, I haven't had that in a long time. Not a bad opponent at all. For an old man, then. Without having time to finish, she saw her hand fly off to the other side, along with a pack of cigarettes. Still. Such moments are the most fun, said the headless old man, standing up. Her bloodied hand lay on the ground. The old man kept saying, don't you know? After all, you were exactly the same created for battles. I realized it when I looked into your eyes. To fight against us. People created imitations that mimic the body of the beast. However, I heard that the experiment failed and all the garbage was disposed of. Except for one person. Hyun Sung didn't understand. Was she made to fight? But the old man kept talking. And this time he showed a real head. She tried to fight, she took the sword with one hand, but it was difficult for her because she was still human. And even if she imitated animal bodies, she still had the weight of pain beyond her strength. The old man decided to use the demon's destructive strike technique on Cha Hyun. No, Hyun Sung put his body in front of her. It hit him right in the stomach. It literally tore apart. Cha Hyun started yelling at him that he was crazy and did not understand why he did it. He said to this, I hate you, your habit of ignoring weak people and thinking that fighting is your everything. But still I don't want to see you die. Enough. I don't want to see someone die in front of me anymore, never. She looked at him in shock. Then, still getting down to business, they made a plan how they would win. Cha Hyun told him to distract the old man for as long as possible. And then she takes over. The old man shouted at them to stop talking. And rushed at Hyun Sung in search of Cha Hyun. He searched for her, but was amused by Hyun Sung's tenacity. He tried to hit him, but his arm was torn off. He attacks him harder and faster and says, fool, are you still showing off your strength? Let's see if you can handle it. He uses the demon serpent fang technique. Suddenly, the wounded Hyun Song sees above him a huge red cloud observed on him. He thinks it's better to evade him than to die. But his mind decides that it would be better not to run away, but to go to the breach. The reality of his world from birth is a series of suffering and pain. And at some point, he had strength. And he wasted this power in vain, on everything that he hated. Pain. Anger. Sorrow. He thought he was fighting it. But no, in fact, he was just running away. Nothing has changed since his mother died and he ran away. Blazing with anger. Soaked in sorrow. Intoxicated by his strength, he fled under the pretense of fighting. Most of all, he hated himself, who constantly just ran away. But now he will fight to the last. Now he needs the strength to fight so as not to run away again. A huge sharp addition came out of his hand, which cut through the demon's fang in seconds. The old man was very surprised at this development of events because this had never happened. He slashed the fang many times, during which time Cha Hyun was able to sneak inside the hurricane to cut the throat of the beast with the bloody sword. Cha Hyun and the beast fought in the hurricane together. We are shown a young beast that fought with Cha Hyun and Hyun Sung. In his youth, he wanted to be stronger and more than a mere human. And one day a man came to him. He told him that the body he wanted and the strength he wanted, he could give it all. He told him to drink his blood in order to obtain an immortal body and unlimited power. He paid a big price for it, he gave up everything human. This was the price. He gave up everything for this power. He abandoned everyone. Wife, children, parents and friends. All this was the price of power he received. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Bye.